Okay, good morning, everybody. We are pretty close to 10. We haven't got quite everybody here, but I think we'll get going. At some point in time, we'll break because Elise Stefanik is supposed to be calling in, speak to us, so I will just stop and let her go whenever she calls in. And I've also got my mask off because somebody complained last time they couldn't understand me with the mask on, and there's nobody within 20 feet, so I guess I'll be fine for a minute or two here. Okay, I wanted to bring you up to date on a couple of things. I believe we are open. Our infection rate was 1.4%, which is pretty good. New cases per 100,000 was 3.03, which is also very good. Our new hospitalizations were 0.38%, which is very, very good. The only thing we're kind of close on is the capacity of our hospital beds. We've got 35% available right now, and the cutoff is 30. Because we have so few that are really available to us in the Capital District, especially the northern part of it, that's a little bit twistier, but we still seem to be pretty good. It's kind of holding at that 35%, so we aren't getting better or worse. We got the new executive order through that allowed the barbershops and salons to open. Our chairman's got an appointment for Saturday to get his cut and curl or whatever he has done. I'm not sure. 0.32 says that they can open racetracks as of July 2nd with no spectators or visitors. So that's still not helping the Fort Ann issue very much, but it'll deal, I guess, with the Saratoga issue. And we got a 0.35 says that our region is meeting the metrics that would allow outdoor low-risk activities, which we're all waiting in great anticipation to hear exactly what they are. We still haven't had a list of what these outdoor activities are. We're hoping it's going to include the gun ranges and that sort of thing. We're going up and down on our county DMV. I know this group is supposed to be related to businesses, but DMV is relating pretty strongly to businesses. As you know, we've still been doing stuff by mail and Dropbox, but we had the word first that if the county decided it was an essential service, we could open. The state has put out some guidelines on opening up their DMVs, and many counties, it's not a county DMV, it's a state DMV. However, as of about 4 o'clock yesterday or so, we got the word back that, oh yeah, just kidding, we aren't going to let you open DMVs. So
yeah, as of 2 o'clock, we were good to go. As of 5:15, we were no good.
All right. So it's that one's still up in the air. Looks like they're loosening up a little bit on local government staffing. If we're bringing back essential services, we apparently can go past 50% without getting dinged too badly, but that wasn't I think that was just guidance as opposed to anything out of the executive order. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, unfortunately, the executive order that he extended was 202.8, and he extended it through June 26th, and that was the one that required us to reduce to 50%.
Yeah.
The guidance we're getting from the control room is now that we're starting to reopen, as the economy starts to reopen, more and more departments are going to be critical or essential to the functioning of the economy, and therefore we can open them, and then they won't count them against our 50%. But that is complete opposite of what the guidance was at the beginning of this, and the language in the executive order hasn't changed, so who knows?
So these control room things, every day it's kind of ping-ponging back and forth. Summer day camps, supposedly we're going to be able to do them 6/29, but there is no written guidance on that at all as of yet. We keep trying to get them to reduce or increase the number that we can have at open meetings, at our public meetings, so we could get back to some normal behavior at town boards and even the county board and things. All I can tell you is that it is being discussed. One of the things that keeps coming up on in this meeting and with everybody I talked to was the outdoor dining, and there just is no word yet. We bring that up. You know, I brought it up yesterday. I think Washington County has been pretty much consistently bringing that up every phone call with the governor's office, and there's just no word yet. I asked them for all the other thing. Mr. Hogan was making the point about people not having internet access and wanting to have hard copies of their affirmation forms and that sort of thing. The word is quite emphatically no. I've asked it several times, and they say no, we're not going to take hard copy stuff coming into this office. We're not set up to input that. You've got to do it on the computer. I asked them yesterday if they could at least make the guidelines and the affirmation printer friendly, because people are the business is open. They're supposed to be doing training, and you can't even print these guidelines off the computer very well. You've got to basically screenshot them and then try to paste them together. And if they could just do a PDF so they could print it, it'd be very nice. Let you know whether that's happening. Same is true with the affirmation. I got them to agree that maybe if the people called in to that number that I gave you earlier with an affirmation and then printed it out, put it on their wall, posted it like they're supposed to, that might be okay. They might be able to input over the phone, but I haven't heard anything more about that, and I'm not sure where that stands, but just, you know, it's pretty tough to print that affirmation off the computer as well. We brought up the driver's test since the people doing and we're not issuing permits because the kids can't come in and take the test and things, but the road test to get their license seemed like something that could be done. Those are state employees, and the state has not agreed to do them yet. Just for your information, when they start doing it, they're probably going to do the CDLs first and get all them done, and then worry about your kid that wants his driver's license. So that's about what I've got, you know, coming in from my end. I think, you know, we've got this control room on the state level, and we've got our county reopening group for reopening this. I think that this group here is for businesses, and I think that probably the best way to handle this is just like we did the last time, just go around the room. If we've got questions and things to take to the state from your businesses that you're hearing that I haven't covered here, I think I've been pretty good about taking the questions down to them, but what we want to hear now is what problems we're having. We're theoretically got, you know, businesses getting ready to open. There is an affirmation list of people that have actually done it. I'm not supposed to send it around to you, but I will provide, you know, the names and things of people in your town if you need to know that. Anyway, I'm going to, I think, just run around the room here and see if we've got anything relating to businesses that we ought to be taking to the state or that we need to resolve or we need to help our businesses out with. We'll do it completely arbitrarily by the way that people appear on the screen, and Dina is the first one on the screen. So.
Hi guys, well, from the LDC end, you know, obviously we've been extremely busy, you know, assisting the businesses throughout the county with different questions they've got, putting out updates daily to the businesses, assisting with various applications throughout the different programs. And most of the questions that we're receiving, I'm sending on to the state, and the state has been very responsive. You know, most of it's to do with the different funding programs that are out there. And the SBA and the other programs have all been very responsive. So I've found that very helpful. But yeah, any questions I've been getting have been taken straight to the state and getting answers for the businesses right away. But, you know, just want to continue to encourage people seeking assistance in any way, whether it's just resources or, you know, whatever you need. The LDC is here, and you can reach out to us by phone, or our website is wcldc.org. And we're here to help in any way possible. So,
thank you, Matt. Hicks.
You pretty much covered everything, Bob, that I was going to ask. A lot of the information that I would ask you, you've already asked and you don't have an answer on yet. So I guess we'll just sit back and wait to get guidance from the state when it comes along. But perhaps at the end, not to put the burden on Chris, but maybe he can give us a little update on county operations and where we stand this week and next week, just to, kind of air it all out. Thanks.
Yep, he's on the list here. Kathy, you there?
I have a few questions. One that's come up to me, it concerns DMV. People that were up to renew their driver's license, obviously they could do that through the mail, but it's cheaper to get the enhanced if they do it at the time they renew their license. So there's been some questions about that, but that falls under DMV. I've done everything I can to try and tell people to go to Forward New York Gov for questions, but I'm still getting questions from some businesses that are trying to figure out what to do, and they're just plain Googling it. They're not looking at the correct spot. I don't know what else we can do to guide them the right way. And being optimistic and looking way forward on our packet for phase 4, it seems like, is the state working on the next steps? Because they never really go to a step that says, okay, back to normal. It ends with still maintaining social distancing. And I just wondered if they were looking toward that at all, or just dealing with phase 2.
Okay, I guess I don't know the mechanics. It's either they just declare stage 4 over, or all the executive orders null and void, or something like that. I'll ask the question. That's 2. Daryl.
No, it's nothing on the business side. The only thing that I know from the numbers, the percentages that we were covering in the beginning, it probably goes towards the registered residents. But as you know, my population doubles during the summer. So not trying to add any fuel to the fire, but just want everybody to know that whatever that baseline population is, it's probably different than reality right now, because we have a lot of people up into their summer homes. Thank you.
Yes, actually, Argyle's in a fairly similar situation. We get a lot of population in the summertime. Laura.
From the business side, I have been talking to some of the ED directors in other regions. One of the things that I have been told has been an issue with some businesses reopening is that when employers call their staff, say that they're opening and ask them to call back in, there's sometimes some degree of pushback for those who are actually receiving more money on unemployment than they would if they come back. So the question is there a specific procedure? Is there something that should be done in those cases? And then the second question that I've heard from a few, and I believe this has been mentioned before, is there any specific guidance on if businesses do all of this affirmation, do everything correctly, what is the degree of liability if an employee basically says, I got COVID at work and it's your fault and I'm going to sue? So those are the two major questions that I think I have heard. I'm sure there will be more as we go along, but that's it for now.
Okay.
Laura, it's Roger. I'm going to be the disembodied voice here because I don't have a camera. But my understanding with unemployment is if you offer somebody their job back, you have to notify unemployment that you've offered them their job back, and if they refuse to come back, they'll lose their benefits. I don't know if that's a tax the business is going to want to take, but That's apparently how the system works according to everything I've read. As for the second one, I think, somebody's gonna go first when the first lawsuit is filed, and then we'll find out what that is. Right now, that's one of the great unknowns. I think if you reasonably follow the CDC guidelines and you can prove them, that's gonna be you can prove you did that, that's gonna be your defense. But I suspect when this is over, there's going to be a burgeoning, cottage industry of folks filing those suits. And how that's gonna work out is gonna probably be determined by the courts. But right now, following the CDC guidance and being able to prove you follow the CDC guidance is the best defense, I would say.
And I'm sure you're aware, but, and I don't know, Roger can probably speak to it more eloquently than I, but I know that's one of the things that's holding up the next round of potential federal stimulus funding is that the Senate majority is trying to address this liability for employers situation through legislation. And that is a sticking point with the House Democrats. So it's something that's being discussed at the federal level, but I don't know what the true efficacy of something passed at the federal level that tries to grant liability and immunity to businesses for this would really be. I think, to Roger's point, that would ultimately be played out in the courts.
Okay, was that it, Laura?
Yep, that was it.
Thank you. Dave O'Brien.
I think the one thing I've heard is, from most people, is that with the guidance coming out in the phases, is that some people would like more time to be able to get ready and coordinate what they have to do. Sending out the guidance 2 or 3 days before you're supposed to open really doesn't help them do the type of things they have to do and get ready properly. So I think that's one of the things that would help substantially is getting some of that guidance out earlier, or just a general overall guidance they can start looking at and working on.
Yes, I think that virtually everybody on the control room calls has said that repeatedly. It's been a great source of frustration that is probably what drove Rensselaer County over the brink to go rogue. So we've already started hollering about phase 3. Let's see the guidelines. Let's see the guidelines. But you're right. That's been very frustrating to come out, 2 days before and expect employers to, all get on there and assimilate this and talk about training, and it's very frustrating.
How do they tell their
Mr. Biddle.
employees?
I'm sorry, Ron, David, didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done.
I was just going to say, how do they get to coordinate with their employees so the employees know what they have to get ready for to come back? And probably if they had information out earlier about the unemployment, that might help them understand that if their employees refuse to come back, they could get thrown right off unemployment.
Yep, understand. Okay, Mr. Biddle.
Supervisor, thank you so much. Just piggybacking on the UI, on the federal level, we do expect it to stop on July 31. There was some talk about extension through the end of the year. I don't think that that's going to get extended, so that should incent people to go back to work as well. It does put owners and employers in a tough situation to have to report on their employees and get them back to work, because you want to have that discussion for the employee to think long term. If the unemployment runs out July 31st, federal $600 extra a week, you want to hopefully talk to the employee about convince them to come back because they're going to be there long term. Just trying to push on restaurants, outdoor seating. There's a lot of safety and a lot of procedures put into place by our restaurants that it's better to sit on a table with social distancing than sit on a curb. I think it's a little more sanitary and a lot safer to go that route, outdoor seating. And then also regarding restaurants and pubs and so on, taverns, stage 3, or when they're ready to open, not open at 25% capacity in the restaurant, but 50%. I think a lot of these rules and guidance are based off of New York City. And in New York City, and I'm sure most of you have been there to a restaurant, you generally have somebody sitting in your hip right next to you at a restaurant that you don't know. because they have to pack people in because of high rent, high food cost, high labor cost. We don't have that issue up here. We can still maintain social distancing very easily at 50% capacity. And for restaurants to open, they also need to make money and make up for the money they've lost the last 3 months. To staff at 25%, you don't have to add anybody to staff for 50% coming in. You have the same amount of people in the kitchen, the same amount of people cleaning, the same hostess, and so on. So that's a big one. Miss Supervisor O'Brien hit another one. One of the blessings, I think, of us being 5 days behind the first region is that the guidance should be out 5 days prior, at least for the other regions opening up, the other 5 regions. But yeah, we're having a lot of consternation and angst from our employers. They all want to do the right thing, but the guidance is taking so long to come out. That's a tough one for our employers to get out in front. And the other question that we have too is businesses that don't open till phase 4, they still need confirmation and affirmation that they can bring employees in before then to get them trained, to have policies and procedures done, to have them ready for that first day that they open up in phase 3 and phase 4. So just to reaffirm with everybody, and I hope that the county understands that, Department of Health, Public Safety, that our businesses need to get employees in prior to the phases opening. And they all will adhere to social distancing, masks, sanitation, and so on. But they need to get employees in ahead of time to make sure that things run smoothly when they open up. And that's what we have. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, thanks, Mike. Rebecca, are you there?
Yes, I am here. So thank you so much. Just kind of a couple things that some have already been echoed. One of the big things that we've been hearing is the affirmation. You know, a lot of people are looking to do the right thing with creating their New York Forward plan and bringing staff in a safe way, but they would like somebody to take a look at their New York Forward plan to make sure that they're doing everything, you know, that they should be doing. Maybe they missed something, maybe there's more detail they can provide. And, you know, they've gone to the state has bounced back. We've run into it too here at the fair, and sent us down to the county level, and we get a game of hot potato going. And I kind of think we're setting these businesses a little bit up for failure, because they go ahead and they sign that affirmation that says, I'm doing everything possible to protect everyone. But like we kind of mentioned earlier, are they going to then down the road be open to some sort of lawsuit? So I know there are some people that are kind of concerned about signing that affirmation and wondering what kind of lawsuit that might open them up to at a later date. The other big thing is graduations. You know, I know that's something that, you know, we're waiting on guidance for. We've gotten a lot of requests asking to host graduations here on the fairgrounds. And we have nothing that we can provide to them to give them any sort of direction on what they can and can't do. And then kind of the final thing, which, you know, has been touched on a couple times here, is the phase 4 guidelines. The type of businesses that are included in those phase 4 guidelines are not the type that can, even 5 days isn't enough to get the guidance for what they need to do. You know, we're dealing with bigger areas, different moving parts, and so they really need it sooner rather than later, especially if, you know, what are those capacity limitations that they're going to be looking at, so they can figure out their staffing as well as the feasibility of them even opening this summer. So I would say those are the big things, and I know the phase 4 thing has been hammered quite a bit, but anything we could get would be helpful.
Okay, and we have asked the question about graduations virtually every day for the past 3 weeks. There's one of the county execs or somebody on the call asking about graduations. And the word we keep getting is, yeah, there'll be some guidance sometime. It seems like that would come under these limited outdoor activities and all kinds of things. Graduations and parades are a biggie.
Well, and I'll tell you, as someone who's talked to a couple of administrators that have come to the fairgrounds to take a look to see about the feasibility, you know, these poor educators are near tears trying to figure this out, and they, you know, everything is talked about in the hypothetical, and it's really hard. We're, you know, and it's not us, obviously, we're asking, but hopefully, you know, we can get something soon.
Okay. I'll ask him again today. Okay, Mr. Hogan.
Bob, I don't have a great deal to add. I would thank Tim Hardy for those materials he sent last week. Those were helpful. The only thing, the two things I should say I've been getting a lot of inquiries about is more county related. You touched on one with DMV. The other was code enforcement, specifically related to building permits and turnaround time. If there is a way, or if there was a thought to have a perhaps a dedicated resource for both of those departments, because I think those are sometimes more customer facing than many of the other departments we have. It would seem to me, particularly in, I guess, their impact on the economy, if we could have a central resource for, you know, maybe some estimates for time turnaround, things like that, turnaround times, excuse me. I think it would be helpful. We had the COVID-19 link. We could always check in daily with the updates on those, the information. I would like, it'd be nice to have something like that for DMV and code enforcement for the time being.
Okay, I was gonna have either Chris or the chairman talk at the end about how things are going at the county. I think some of that they'll probably hit on. So. Thank you. If I missed anybody that's not a county employee here? Guess not. Okay. I'll start with from the county level. Patty, you got anything you want to add?
No, I think we're good. We're just doing what we're doing. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jordan.
Nothing to add. Thank you for the updates.
Sheriff. Okay. Glenn Gosnell, you on there? You got?
Nothing to add. Thank you, sir.
Tim?
The only thing I have, we have talked to Rebecca quite a bit about some events at the fair. Certainly, our office is a resource for anybody who's looking for maybe some ideas or interpretation on the guidance. But we have sent a number of businesses to LDC or to the regional chamber with questions about business type things. Certainly, we're a resource to get anybody the docs from New York forward if you need them and you can't get them some other way. We are working on getting hand sanitizer out to anybody who's needed it. We've heard from some businesses who had immediate needs regarding that. PPE, again, is still in real short supply, so we're kind of limited to healthcare, first responders, those kind of things. But we were able to outfit Board of Elections with everything they need for the upcoming election, and all of our county departments are getting outfitted with everything they need so we can get people back here and keep them safe. So if anybody needs anything, please reach out to us. And graduations, we've met with the superintendents a number of times with Patty and with the chairman, just trying to keep them as informed as we can. We are pushing at every level, at the executive level, the emergency management level, public health level, for guidance for all of those things too. We know it's a very important time for everybody, so it's just it's put us all in a very difficult spot. Everybody wants to give the answer everyone wants to hear. Unfortunately, we don't want guidance to come out the next day that contradicts everything that we say and put them in a difficult spot. So the schools have been in touch mostly with their insurance carriers, just to ensure that whatever the executive orders that are out there, that they will be covered if something does change for their events. So that's become a hot ticket item as well.
Thank you, Tim. Chris, you want to give us stuff from the county perspective?
Sure. Thanks, Bob. So I'll do my best to give an update on county operations, but I'm going to have to put an asterisk by all of that, and that is that currently this is just a plan. The chairman of government operations, Mr. O'Brien, has called a meeting for Friday at 11 a.m., and the purpose of that meeting is to talk over what this tentative plan is and get the input of the Board of Supervisors. So Everything I'm going to discuss right now is not finalized and has not been approved by the Board of Supervisors. Rather, it's the internal planning document, for lack of a better term. So the current plan is that Monday, June 8th, the County Municipal Center will reopen to the public. That is not throwing the doors open and going back to the way we were March 1st. Everything will be by appointment only. All members of the public who show up to the building with an appointment will be screened for temperature and symptoms and required to wear a cloth face covering at all times while in the building. Starting Monday, we will have an increased staffing presence here at the County Municipal Center in order to facilitate those interactions with the public. We do not expect to be back to 100%. As Mr. Hankey mentioned earlier in this meeting, we are getting very confusing and what I would argue is somewhat conflicting guidance from the state in that there is an executive order still in force requiring us to reduce our staff by 50%, and yet we're being told, well, if you need to reopen departments because your economy is reopening, go ahead and do it, you won't get in trouble. And of course, that is nowhere in writing. So we're going to try and increase staffing as little as possible. We've had a number of meetings with department heads recently where we've stressed that we want an increased staffing presence so that we can start to serve the public in a better stance, but we need to try to utilize remote work, staggered shifts, whatever we can come up with to try to limit the employee density in the building at any one time. Also, as Mr. Henke mentioned earlier, we asked a question on the control room call on Monday regarding DMV. Tuesday at 2 o'clock during the control room call, we were told that if the Board of Supervisors in the county deemed DMV to be an essential service, we could go ahead and open it, even though that was contrary to the guidance that was set out by the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles. And then at about 5:15 last night, I got an email from the governor's office that said, no, you can't do that. So in conversations with the county clerk this morning, she took what I think is a prudent course, set out a prudent course given what we've been told most recently by the state, which is to aim to reopen DMV on June 22nd. That will be in phase 3. That will dovetail with the state timeline, although even, and I know you'll find this hard to believe, the state timeline is conflicting because there is a public statement from the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles saying that state DMV offices will open in phase 3, which for us is June 17th, and yet there's an executive order that says no in-person transactions at DMV until June 28th. So your guess is as good as mine. But for right now, tentatively, the goal for DMV will be June 22nd, and that will follow a full Board of Supervisors meeting on June 19th where we can discuss any new guidance, as I'm sure things are going to change. Those are the big updates as far as county operational stance at this point. Are there any questions on that from any members of the committee?
Chris, I have a question with respect to code enforcement. How is the building process going? Like, what is the backlog currently?
I don't know. I made a note when you raised the question earlier. I will check in with Mr. Graham immediately after this meeting and try to get a sense of what kind of a backlog they're experiencing.
Anything else? Pretty good. We haven't heard anything from
the Congresswoman's district manager is on.
Okay.
She is not.
Okay, if he wants to speak, let's.
Mike, do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you to everybody. Supervisor Henke, this is Michael Osher, the district director. I apologize for the confusion with the Congresswoman. I was always planning on listening in on her behalf. I just wanted to say thank you to you and the committee for all your hard work for Washington County. I have been on the daily governor's conference calls in the afternoon. The outdoor seating issue has been raised on several occasions. So as mentioned, still waiting for guidance on that, but the state elected officials have brought it up. I've brought it up. So we are waiting for guidance. Obviously, just want to continue to work with all of our partners in Washington County, and looking forward to finally getting back to somewhat of a normal setting. And if there's anybody that has any issues or questions, I'm happy to try to answer them as best I can.
Got anything for Mr. Ostrander? Okay, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Okay, is there anything else anybody has thought of that you want to do going forward? You want me to take to the control room today or tomorrow or next day?
Supervisor?
Anything else?
Supervisor?
Who's that? Mr.
Michael
Biddle,
Biddle.
yes.
Yes, sir. Just one more. There was an email sent out, I think, to the control room, or you all talked about it last night, regarding low impact outdoor recreation. It just was sent out as a general safe reopening of low impact outdoor recreation, which right now has no guidance and no clarity. I think it was regarding sports practices, outdoor adventure courses, mini golf, things like that. If you could just kindly poke again today, what does that mean and where's the guidance?
Yeah, that's a great source of frustration. They have them say, yes, you can do this, but not define what the activities are or what the guidelines are. I'll mention it again.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to give you a quick update. I sent around to the committee what the official unemployment stats are for the month of April. But obviously, Department of Labor, it takes a while for them to do their analysis. But I can say at that time, it was 13.9% for April. But between the last week of March and the week ending May 23rd, we had a total of about 5,200 unemployment claims. So again, this isn't an official stat, but I would say that Washington County right now is at about 17.5% unemployment.
That sounds about right, Mike, from your perspective?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, I still think it could be a little worse.
Okay, I guess from my perspective, that sounds a little optimistic for my area, but maybe overall, that's probably pretty good. We still got a bunch of businesses operating. Okay.
Some of our largest businesses did not actually furlough people.
Yeah.
So that's helped a great deal.
Yeah, so looking at my little part of the world over there, I think it's probably higher, but you're right, overall for the county, that's actually not too bad compared to some other areas.
Some other counties have got significantly higher rates. So I suppose we could look at that as something of a blessing. We're not as bad off as some other areas, but still, we've got some work to do to get those people back to work and paying bills.
Yeah, we've got only one arm cut off instead of two. That's the only optimistic way to look at it, I presume. Okay, anybody else have anything before we close? Going once, going twice? When do you want to meet next? Want to wait a week? Want to wait 2 weeks? You want to let phase two get going good? Mike?
Supervisor, I would submit, I know Supervisor Wilson just put up either the peace sign or 2 weeks, but I would go with 1 week. I would go with 1 week because there's so many changes coming up for phase three. But I'm open to anything. It's just, this is such a moving target.
Okay, like I say, in a week, things don't tend to change on the state level is the problem, but I would go with a week would be fine. We've got one bid for 2 weeks, one bid for 1 week. Let's do the first one do it a week from today. And, I'll check, make sure there's no overlaps and problems there, but, for right now, we'll try it a week from today at the same time. 10 o'clock, okay for everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
And Chris,
All right.
Chris, if you want to stay on, I can chat with you a little bit about what we're doing as an essential service, catching up, might help you on the county level.
Okay, great.
Okay. I guess we're done. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.